So you will find a lot of legends and facts also are related to our holy Ganga. So the holy flow of Ganga on the one hand, and the beautiful, salubrious, sublime and all purifying air, water and air and sunshine, all these things put together, it was a beautiful, very rare atmosphere there. And Parikshit is seated there on the Kusha Asana. And the Prayopavesha is already announced and it has begun. You know what happened? The holy flow of Ganga, many great events have taken place in and around Ganga. I don't know whether I told you in the earlier episodes, our great dharma, our culture, what we call the dharma of Bharat, Bharata dharma. It is not a religion at all, as I had mentioned earlier. The dharmic thoughts, the dharmic principles, the dharmic discoveries and the dharmic ideals and principles, all of them were evolved in the Gangetic plain. So Ganga and the plains of Ganga have a great unobliterable contribution to make it has made. Let us be very careful about it. When Parikshit sat there, the intrinsic holiness of Ganga coupled with the sublime and pure atmosphere of the whole place conspired themselves together, and then discussion was going on. What does Parikshit want? He said that your compliments I accept, but they will be meaningful only if you are able to feast my ears with divine stories, narrating all the principles, truths, values and messages of human life. Unless I am able to constantly and continuously listen to your narration, I will not be able to bear the impact of this Prayopavesha vow. Can you provide me this? Can you speak to me continuously, unbrokenly, incessantly, telling me about the divine excellences, divine exploits and the divine adventures of God? Tell me everything about what life is, what world is, what is meant by living in this world. Just like me, many mistakes can happen. What is the way of escape, refuge? All these things if you can narrate to me. We have a number of epics, a number of Puranas and Idihasas. I would like all of them to be narrated to me continuously so that my mind will get completely soaked and I will be able to imbibe the message transmitted through all these narrations. Now this was a question he put before the assembly. So some discussions were going on. Some asked him, Parikshit, what are your questions? What is it that you want to know? When the discussion was in progress, suddenly, all of a sudden, unannounced, arrived there the great Shukamuni, the young boy, 16 years old, wearing nothing, as I said, on his body. This is what happened. Seeing him, they understood that this is a very rare ascetic, a kind of a beautiful and selective or selected spiritual hippie. It is called Avadhuta. Avadhuta is one who has thrown aboard every kind of a consideration, discipline, restraint, value, etc. He becomes like a child. A child doesn't require any kind of a discipline at all normally because it is harmless, absolutely harmless. In the same manner, the humanhood in him had dissolved and spiritualhood and divinity had completely been shining in him. The very sight of Shukamuni gave the message to everybody that here is a boy, here is an youngster who has said goodbye to the world, cast aside every little thing associated with the world, and he is completely flooded by the inner spiritual splendor. It was very evident. The moment he came, all of them got up, received him, and asked him to sit on the seat prepared for giving the narration. Thereafter it was Shukamuni's job. It was his narration. So he understood what is the situation and how, etc., etc. And then Shukamuni took up the narration. Now here Srimad Bhagavata presents a few important verses. This appears in the second skandha, second chapter. I will recite one of the verses. It's a verse I rejoice in so much. I would like all of you to understand, to some extent at least, how this Swamiji who is exposing to you Srimad Bhagavatam, the Mukti-skandham, the inner spiritual splendor, how much of delight, joy, contentment, exhilaration and ecstasy he is deriving from these descriptions of Srimad Bhagavatam. The power of words is supreme. Every word has a mystic power, an ineffable, indescribable power. It is through words that we convey ideas, and through ideas we convey knowledge and also the necessary inspiration. The power of instilling, all these are contained in our words. What is the difference between a good music and not so good music? Both may sing the same song, but you will find the singers are different. After all, whenever you speak, the voice comes from the abdomen and gradually it comes up, it goes to the chest, neck, etc. Maybe I have told you already. And finally, involving the teeth, tongue, lips and nose, it comes out. So a proper sound, when properly expressed, it has got lightning effect. This you should understand. So Srimad Bhagavatam presents a few verses. One of them, as I said, I shall recite now. Chirani kim pathina sandhi dishandi bhiksham naivanghripah parabhrita saravopya shushyan ruddha guha kimajido vadinopasannan kasmat bhajanti kavayo dhanadurmadandhan. See, Srimad Bhagavatam, as I told you, it is a Paramahamsya Samhita. It is a beautiful Samhita, a compendium, authored by a Paramahamsa, to be narrated by a Paramahamsa, a very enlightened, lofty person. You see, the Parikshit's purpose was that. It was to overcome death before it became a reality on the seventh day. I always describe Srimad Bhagavatam as a mighty weapon that conquers death. This is my description. I call it a mighty weapon which conquers death. This is what my description of Srimad Bhagavatam is. So, such a beautiful text which always describes the splendor of the soul, the inner splendor that everyone carries. It reveals it to you, shows it to you, uncovers it, discovers it, and makes you actualize it in your own life. Such a great scripture, it has to be exposed also by a deserving person. So Parikshit, his own vow made him absolutely unworldly, supra-worldly. When he got the narrator like Shukamuni, that became all the more so. Now Srimad Bhagavatam, by presenting this verse, not merely describes who should expose the message of Srimad Bhagavatam, it also gives you a very good insight about the little boy, the 16-year-old boy, ascetic boy, the Avadhuta, who has come and taken up the mission of narrating to Parikshit whatever he wanted to hear. So it serves a double purpose. It gives you a knowledge of Shukamuni, and it also emphasizes who are the people who should take up the exposition of Srimad Bhagavata, so that its values, messages, truths and principles are wholesomely, fully conveyed to the listeners. Chirani kim pathina santi dishanti bhiksham naivanghripah parabhritaha saravopya shushyan ruddha guha kimajido vadinopasannan kasmat bhajanti kavayo dhanadurmadandhan. I would like you to take up Srimad Bhagavatam, not now, after the day's program, and go through this verse. Understand what is the spirit with which it is incorporated there or it is recited. Srimad Bhagavata propounds devotion. It tells you how devotion becomes a powerful source for man. In the hands of devotion, how the human mind, the human intelligence and the human heart can completely transform themselves to become radiant, to become buoyant, to become divine, to become absolutely delightful, contented. Devotion makes one delight only in God. Only in God. And what is this God? It is the supreme source, the supreme intelligence, from out of which the whole creation has emerged. And the creation is also preserved by the same source and also dissolved. When you are constantly in touch with that source and your mind is inebriate with its own splendor, its own ecstasy, what is it that you need from this world? After all, what is there in this world? You know, I always describe God to be the most richest source. All people in this world have become rich and great. Do you know how? Either by farming, doing agriculture on the earth, different products, or by extracting the chemicals and salts, etc., and other solid substances, processing them in a factory and producing different types of goods and services beneficial to the society at large. So all the riches, even the currency notes that you have, it's after all paper and different types of ink, maybe a thread, this, that and all. All these things are products of the earth. Only by selling these goods they get the money. If it is gold, it is extracted from the earth. Silver also, copper also, iron also. So what is it that we have in this world? Everything from the earth, air, water, etc. So God or the source from which all these substances are born, what do you think? Is God richer, or these people who have made a little money or gold, they are richer? So for me, God is the super rich source. When a devotee, by the practice of wholesome devotion, links himself with God, he is constantly linked to God. What is it that he will lack? Will he run after the things of the world? So there is a lot of dispassion which follows, which gets coupled with devotion. Unless dispassion is linked to devotion, devotion will not yield its result, namely God experience or God consciousness. In this particular verse you will find how a person like Shukamuni or even any other austere person or an ascetic person, an enlightened person should think and behave. What should be his attitude? Even in the matter of exposing a spiritual scripture like Sreemad Bhagavatam. I always say, Paramahamsas should expose Sreemad Bhagavatam, then only the viewers and the listeners will be able to get hold of the right messages transmitted on different occasions through different episodes. He says, Chirani kim pathina sandhi dishandi bhiksham naivanghripah parabhrataha saravopya shushyan. Are there not torn pieces of cloth lying distributedly on the footpaths of the roads, he asks. Who? Shuka Maharshi, the narrator. First of all, he says this. By narrating this verse, Parikshit and the other listeners must have had an inkling of what a great, tremendous personality this 16-year-old boy has within himself. Are there not torn pieces of cloth lying on the different parts of the road? Can you not collect them? Can you not stitch them, and wear them on your waist? If you want to cover your private parts, loins, you can make use of these. Why are you requiring any help or aid? Chirani kim pathina sandhi dishamdi bhiksham naivanghripah parabhrataha. If you want to eat, there are a number of trees, plants and even creepers. They bear fruits, leaves and so many other things are there. You know, all the trees, they are given the name Parabhrit. What does it mean, Parabhrit? They are meant to sustain and support and help the others. Think of a mango tree. Every year, every tree brings about hundreds of mangoes. The tree never takes even one mango as its own food. So all the mangoes and similarly jacks and other things, everything is borne by the trees and plants for the benefit of others. The trees by their very nature, suppose there was no vegetation, no tree, no agricultural operation at all on this earth, do you think we will be able to live? People living in multi-storied mansions in the cities, where from does the food come for them? It's all grown. So you should understand, when human beings or other beings are born on the earth, nature has also provided for their respective food items upon the earth. It is not that they were born first and food items were provided next. Not at all. Everything is intertwined. So here he says, Naivanghripah parabhrataha saridopya shushyan. Are there not trees like this? So whenever you want to eat something, just like the apes and monkeys eat the fruits of the trees. You can also pluck any fruit from any tree. The tree is not going to say, you should not touch me. Don't incur this loss. I am bringing up flowers and fruits for me to sell and make money. The trees don't say that. So they are parabrit. They are meant to sustain and support the others. So you can appease your hunger. Saridopya Shushyan. There are a number of rivers. Many of them are perennial. They will be flowing throughout the year. In the rainy seasons, there may be greater or more water. But perennial rivers will not dry up during the summer also. Such perennial rivers also are there. Have they gone dry? He is asking. Paravopya Shushyan Ruddha Guha. So far as you want to live. Maybe in summer you want to have a shade. In rain you want to have a little warmth. So there are a number of caves naturally and normally made by the mountains. Can you not go there and live? Are the doors shut? Is there any door for caves? Are they shut? Does anybody tell you that you should not enter the place? Ruddha Guha. Forget about all these matters. Kim ajito vatino pasannan. There is that invincible Lord, unconquerable Lord. A Lord who has never known defeat at all. It is because of His potential and power and grace that the whole universe lives in this manner. Even the ingoing and outgoing breath in your biological system, who guides it, who controls it, who operates it? It is that Supreme Lord in a micro level as well as in a macro level. It is God and God alone that has made arrangement for preserving all kinds of beings, the entire existence and function of the world. So that Supreme Lord, the unconquerable Lord, has He ever said, Ajito vatino pasannan, I am too loaded, please don't take refuge under me. I already have a number of people to care. If you also come, I have no place to provide, I have no food to give. Has He ever declared His impotence, His inability or His insufficiency? Has He ever said, Kimajito vatino pasannan kasmat bhajanti kavayo dhanadurmadam dhan. Being so, kavayaha is a very great meaningful word. People who have the spiritual and the philosophical insight about life, about world, about God, about themselves, about the soul. Such enlightened and illumined people, why should they go a-begging, he says. Dhana durmadam dhan. Whoever has money, he has got pride. He has got infatuation. He always thinks, I have and others don't have. I give and the others are receiving. As a giver, he always feels he is superior. Whenever you give to anybody, be very humble. Even to an ordinary beggar, if you are giving, you should be happy and thankful and grateful to him. I have something. When I give, somebody should take it. So give with humility, give with fondness, give with a feeling of, I am blessing myself. So whenever somebody comes to receive a gift or an offer from you, understand it's a great opportunity God has provided for you. As a giver, first of all, you should be grateful to God that or nature that I have something to give. Not only that, I have a mind to give. Suppose I have so much of possessiveness that I don't like to spare whatever I have, then I become useless. Nobody will respect you at all. And when you give, somebody should be able to receive it. In India, luckily and fortunately, even now, there are a number of people who will accept whenever you give. Perhaps if you go to the welfare states of the European countries, the situation is different. You may want to give, but there is no taker at all. So you should be grateful when you give something, others come and extend their hand and ask for it. This should be the attitude. A lot of fondness on the one hand, humility on the other hand, and a feeling of immense gratefulness towards God as well as nature. These are the ideas which you should give. But what we find normally is the moneyed man, the prosperous man is always pompous and proud and conceited. Dhana durmadhanthan. Such conceited people, why should the wise people who know the supreme truth, who are lofty devotees of the Lord, whose mind is constantly delighting and exulting in the thought, memory, union and experience of God, why should they ever go and stand before as beggars before the others? My dear viewers, do you understand the clarity, the strength, the purpose and the wonderful dimension this verse carries? Srimad Bhagavata spells out these things in many, many places. I will recite the verse. For me it is something very, very beautiful. You know, it sets the goal, the direction for the exponent of Srimad Bhagavatam. The Srimad Bhagavata exponent is not a weak man. He is not just a scholar by virtue of his education in any particular language. No, no, no. The Srimad Bhagavata exponent must be one whose heart is full, floating in abundance and inner splendor and affluence. So much so, he never considers himself to be weak or second to anybody in this world. He is carrying God in his heart. God in his heart. And by installing him and preserving him there, he becomes the greatest in this world. All people may go to him, fall at his feet, seek blessings. Even the money mongers will have to seek his blessings. Tasmad atmajnam hyarchayet bhutikamaha, says Mundakopanishad. A knower of self, by virtue of his self-knowledge, becomes so lofty, so singular, that even if you want prosperity, you go and fall at his feet and seeking his blessings. Because whatever the knower of truth feels, either for himself or for the sake of others, automatically he will get. Chirani kim pathina sandhi dishandi bhiksham naivang kripah parabhrutas saravopya shushyan ruddha guha kimajito vadinopasannan kasmad bhajanti kavayo dhanadurmadandhan. Why did I say this, my dear viewers? Are you listening to me? What do you think of Srimad Bhagavatam and the narration of this wonderful nectarine text? I just now completed a 5-day series in the Chinmaya Mission Auditorium in the institutional area of Delhi. 5 days I was exposing Srimad Bhagavatam. And then while exposing, I was reciting the Sanskrit verses. I don't know whether the audience found me a little strange the first day, but thereafter they became very much acclimatized and attuned. Srimad Bhagavata's verses are to be recited, recited, recited. The exponent has to recite it very well, and the viewers and the listeners will have to imbibe that wonderful recitation. You may not know all the language. In fact, there are not many who know Sanskrit. Even for scholars, Srimad Bhagavata verses will have to be specially studied, looking into commentaries, thinking about the verses themselves. It is not like reading an English book or a regional language book. This is poetry. A number of cryptic phrases are there. A number of combined words are there. Words can be so beautifully combined that one single word can go to several lines or make a paragraph. Such usages also are there, particularly in the 5th skandha. So I am very particular that I recite these verses. Then again, he must also have the spiritual wisdom to explain any kind of a concept to the understanding of the listeners and the viewers. Thus, jnana, bhakti and vairagya, wisdom, devotion and dispassion, all the three should be constantly blended, and the text blends also. Now, I would like to say what? Srimad Bhagavata presents before us 3 boys. The first boy is the son of Maharshi Shamiga. We already had an exposure about what transpired between the father and the son. The second boy Srimad Bhagavatam presents is Dhruva, a 5-year-old child. A 5-year-old child. Many of you may know the story, so I am not going to elaborate it. So the second boy is Dhruva. The 5-year-old boy Dhruva displays before us. He is an eternal instance, exemplifying what? How much of resolve, particularly a spiritual resolve, the human mind is capable of mustering and display. We may be less in many factors in life. You may not have a big height. You may not have a stout body. You may not look beautiful. You may not have many other seemingly beneficial factors. All these are the physiognomical and biological traits of your body. But we are not the body. The body itself is employed by the mind and the intelligence. The mind is not matter, nor is it energy. It is a functional node of consciousness which is supra-material and supra-energial. In that mind level, my dear souls, we are not at all lesser than anybody else in this world. There is external inequality, agreed, but there is internal, full and abundant equality. The soul is in everyone. God is equally proximate to all people. An external substance may be differently distant from others, but the internal is equally dear, near and close to everyone. Is not your mind close to you? Is a rich man's mind closer to him than a poor man's mind closer to the poor man? No. Our mind is very close to us. Our intelligence is close to us. Our soul is closest we ourselves. So look into your own inside and find out. Our mind has got infinite potential, and it has got an endless possibility also.